Yeah, it becomes this forceful thing. It needs to be consensual between reader and mic stand.
I want it to be a little more forceful.
A little more forceful? You want it up a little bit?
Up is good.
Up is good. How's that? It's a lot of treble, yeah? Echo. We got the reverb. Okay. You want your hair blown back. Well, let me tell you a quick little anecdote. So, excuse me, Lauren and I are in town from Redlands. Has anybody been there? Yeah, a couple people. So coming into Ventura, we haven't spent much time here, so we did our research about where to stay. And we scoured the interwebs. That's the one with email, I hear. And we found that Thompson is the right place to stay. So that's where we're at. If you see smoke or a mushroom cloud later tonight, just know we're well. We'll be in your thoughts. So I'd like to drink some water and then read some poetry, if that's all right. That's handy. So I'm going to start off with a poem from Askew. Thought that'd be appropriate. Perfect Ghost. I'm still awake, thinking about rhythmic questions. My mind is all die-cast hoops, stainless tension lugs, double-ply batter heads, cast steel pedals, felt beaters, sticks as thick as thumbs, 14 inches long. I remember tracing a dime on the middle of the snare, making each stroke go there for 10 minutes, shedding at 120, 140, 160, 180 BPM for an hour straight, punishing an over-the-bar syncopated rhythm, shedding and shedding until the thinner layers of skin were tight, rough-scaled mounds, and the remnants of my sticks lined the rims of drum hoops, sawdust, drifting down like marine snow, resting on my feet. The perfect rim shot is a shotgun blast in a hollowed cathedral. The perfect ghost note is crushing snow. But what is a drummer without any drums? I remember when Bone told me the two most important things about drumming. To steal from one is plagiarism. To steal from many is research. If the girls aren't dancing, you're doing something wrong. This is how the earth was created, percussion. One thing striking against another thing, like lovers battling or fucking until something is either created or destroyed. Music plays us the way it always has, turning turn signals into metronomes, tapping our molars at an even tempo, reminding us that a drum set without a drummer still makes a sound like a dog whistle, too high for most to hear, but for us, it's sharp enough to keep us awake, thinking about the sound of snow. Thank you. Is the mic a little hot, or is it just my face from that Manhattan I had earlier?
Fix it, Phil. It's not quite right.
It's the sibilants that are gonna kill us all.
I can hear it.
Pour some water on it.
Yeah. I can just project, too. I can do that. Okay. Okay. Do I do a dance number in the meantime? Pop and lock it? Half the room was like, yes, the other half was like, please don't. So it's like, by a round of applause, we could do that.
Can you do them both at the same time?
Read and dance?
Yeah.
I don't know, I haven't tried that. It's a nice little niche market.
It's still wrong, Phil.
Suffering succotash. I feel like that would be the good test. Tinny. Is it
Somebody touched it.
suffering succotash? Is that good?
That's good.
Someone.
Fernando.
Where is that guy? That's better, right? I feel like before I was like a little, like I'm gonna kill everybody here. Worst reading ever. Thank you, Phil. Where water turns to stone. At the Cricket, we each order an old-fashioned and wait for a billiards table to open up. Al says the last time he was here, a man ordered a double blue label, neat, held the rocks glass in front of his face, looked at Al through the $40 drink, asked him what he had ever lost, drained the glass before Al could respond. After 3 cheap pitchers and 4 rounds of 9-ball, we walk to a house party where, downstairs, people cluster like ants, gripping red plastic cups in cheap rental hallways. I get to talking with one of them, a guy with a silver bull ring in his nose, who must have seen a reflection of himself, because after a while he asks if I want to play hit for hit. So we take turns slugging each other in the arms and chest, smiling, trying to convince each other and ourselves that it's not so bad, enduring for the sake of saying we endured. He challenges me to a game of mercy. So we lock our hands like 2 opposing starfish, twist the other's wrists into whatever distortions we can, grapple like adolescent elk in the shitty basement of a house I will never return to. After no clear winner, he invites me to the backyard where we knock the expressions off each other's face, try to land kicks to the nuts, bruise the ribs, chip the teeth, until I am only thinking of words as landmarks, like breadbasket or spleen, until I am cradling his throat in the crook of my arm, like squeezing a lemon, wanting only to name that branching anger, unaware of the brass knuckles in his pocket, uninspired by the 4-inch folding knife in mine, feeling the way I do when I throw a stone in a lake, not yet tracking the ripples, seeming at first insignificant, like an ant or a crumb or the freight of a single decision. But then, just as an ant sees itself in the image of other ants, a decision works in complicit harmony with other decisions, choking crumbs in their jaws, dragging them underground, making stacks in the dark, until I am compelled to stare at that brief opening where water turns to stone and back to water, the place where it all disappears into the lake's reflective mouth. Loud enough? Yeah? Cool. Sexy enough? It's a hard act to follow. I get that. I get that. T-shirt's a little billowy, I know. Loud, sexy. Lower. I get what you're saying. So, we were Lauren and I were talking earlier, and we were like, some of our poems are just so serious, and I don't mean to be the poet that just kind of hits people over the head over and over again. I mean, sometimes that's good, right? Sometimes that can be effective. But if there's a moment where you feel the humor, there is some dark humor in here, I feel. And it's okay to laugh, too. It's not going to throw me, certainly. If you do, I'll probably recognize Ken. Repurposed. 1. Camping on BLM land just north of Lucky Peak, my brother leaned against the stainless roll bar in the back of my pickup, held a double-barreled beer bong as high as he could. 2 at a time, the others twisted red and white irrigation nozzles and chugged through acrylic tubes. One of the younger ones botched it up, pulled back too soon, and shot a piss-colored fountain all over the cracked plastic bedliner of my truck. We drank Keystone and blasted metal. My brother lost his virginity that night in a tent with a blonde, or in a truck with a brunette. He rubbed butter on the bright red funnel to cut the foam, poured beer after beer, held his hands above his head, reveled in the double bass, while the others dragged a felled tree to the fire. 2. I sat him down and told him about getting high, what it would feel like in his lungs, how long it would last, how to hold it in, the correct way to breathe. I showed him the pipe, a 3-inch length of galvanized steel with a threaded elbow at one end, a repurposed sink aerator for a screen, the whole thing wrapped in black hockey tape. Sitting by the man-made lake at the center of the apartment complex, we sparked bowls and laughed when he singed his eyebrows. Don't worry, if someone comes, just throw it in the lake. It's so heavy, it'll sink to the bottom. He held the pipe loose, like he was weighing it, considering the depth of the water. 3. He calls again, asking how I've been. He's drunk, and I'm not. He says the bastard locked him out, changed the locks while he was at work. He says it's been bad since June, says he didn't see it coming. I listen as the story bleeds into other stories. I pinch the phone between my cheek and my shoulder while I hang damp laundry on a ratchet strap running the length of the crossbeam above my bed. The mattress sinks as I step and stretch, reach up and hook another hanger. He talks about a homeless woman with cigarette burns peppering her arms, says she needs a place to sleep, a place to get clean and forget a few things. His voice, hollow like the shrunken shirts hanging over my head, sounds more and more like my own. That's the end of that one. But you don't have to clap. In fact, you don't have to clap after any of them. Like, you can wait if you want to. Because sometimes when I'm hearing something, I don't want to just... So I feel like just sitting there, and that's cool too. It's all up to you. That wasn't like a subtle, passive... You don't have to clap, it's fine, whatever. Kind of sounded like it, but that's not what it was. Yeah, sure, clap at the other ones, whatever. The woman who blew herself up imagines her God as an attractive man. With chest hair she plucks, knits an afghan the color of soot. Hair she runs her fingers through, the same fingers she uses to find and touch herself under a yellow fleece. Churn between her thighs, imagines tobogganing down the barrel of a cannon as she watches the History Channel, thinking of the ramrod, the tamping, reaching a lit fuse to the touch hole, until at last her concussion rattles bowel deep. She slides the cannula back in her nostrils, lights another cigarette, combusts the oxygen brimming around her, erupts through the walls of a California single-wide. You could see the smoke for miles, an obvious hazy gray rising like a spoke, or projecting down like an ashy finger, pointing at Arroyo Grande's momentary lamplight, indicating the spot where a home's carapace was thrust open, ignited from within like an M80 shredding a tin can. The place where life became a radius of shattered dishes and burnt bed sheets, crocheted oven mitts, ironically torched. The microwave was never found. Vitals, large bore catheters, saline, oxygen, an endotracheal tube the diameter of her smallest finger, snaking down her throat. The blushing landmarks of her body are renamed. What were moments ago her abdomen, left breast, throat, septum are now second degree, third degree. Her breathing sizzles like sand winnowing through tunneling beach grass. She prays to her God, his chest hair singed and reeking, hoping that some part of her exploded life has not met with fire. Asks him for cool water, a glacier, a layer of permafrost to burrow into, where she cups the light of phosphor in her hands, throws it down a well. She prays that the frozen peas are still frozen. She tries not to think of superheated steam waiting under cellophane blankets of TV dinners, gathering in force like thunderclouds, peeling back the plastic skin, rising in gliding curls like the shadow of a resurrection. It's like this half was like, I'm clapping, this half was like, I'm cool. What ounce you got? What ounce you got, buddy? I like it. Differences. Asymmetry. I've heard it said that we are born and set on the road to death. The lucky ones merely have a longer walk, worse feet. Some of us walk the highways of Nevada, straight ahead at 65 miles an hour, never turning, listening to Top 40. Some of us walk the interstates of Los Angeles, hateful spirals, clusters of go faster on-ramps, off-ramps, twisting like humping snakes. Some of us walk the one to Big Sur, take the pull-out, smoke a joint, consider if falling through the sky would be worth the jump. My toe is broken, which only slightly changes my gait. But if I were in the wild, I'd surely have my skull licked clean. Why can't my left knee be more like my right? They say the universe was created by an asymmetry of matter and antimatter, that our cells differentiate asymmetrically. But in the stone cavern of a kneecap, where ball and socket slow dance, grind and thrust against each other at the pelvis, hold and release, asymmetry uses the pool cue of my tibia to whittle uneven furrows in the chalk of my patella. I have seen a man's kneecap cut open like a mouth, laid over like a trap door while a surgeon blasts AC/DC, drills and pounds a titanium post into the top of the shin like a miner forcing a steel rod into the face of a mountain. The likelihood of not blowing a disc, cracking a hip, plugging an artery, passing out on the toilet, being buried up to our heads in cancer's anthill follows a bell curve if we're lucky. If we're lucky, we're fortunate enough to watch the body gradually disintegrate like an antacid in warm water. Emancipated arms, legs, genitals, a severed hand waving back at us, our bodies whirling freely around the drain like morbid kaleidoscopes of failed organs and tired hides, spitting our borrowed nutrients back into the cauldron we crawled out of, silenced for once, humbled at last. Our legacies become convenient fabrications, the formal courtesies granted by the living, scattering that hate we so carefully tended in life. After all, no one talks about the farts of the dead, the chronic masturbation or piercing halitosis, the obsessed locking and unlocking of doors, forgotten like last autumn's leaves, the habitual lies, debilitating procrastination, forgiven in exchange for our deaths. I apologize, I don't remember when I started, so time-wise, where am I? One more minute? Yeah? 1 minute or one poem? Okay, good. Those are two different things. 'Cause those of you that remember the Micro Machine Man on TV, I could do that one. Okay. The story of the stolen photos will never end well. At one point, there may have been something sacred about developing film. Bringing the rolls to a drugstore, superstore, kiosk at the mall. Filling out paperwork like you were enrolling it in GED courses. Handing them over, all those incarcerated bits of your life, to the young man working behind the counter, the one who occasionally finds a nipple, or the top of a breast, or full-blown coitus, trapped in silver like fireflies in a mason jar. These young men, collectors of such fireflies, masturbators par excellence, stealers of memories, were forced out of a job by the relentless progression of organized pixels. As confused by the changing times as any baby boomer, who have a raw deal if you think about it, born in the fallout of war. My mother, like others her age, is a curator of boxed memories, slides in plastic bags, undeveloped rolls of film, faces hidden like nesting dolls in stacks and piles and storage units. Helping her move, I took a box of photos from my childhood, put it in the trunk of my car under a black sweatshirt. 4 years later, during a Christmas visit, each photo was a sliver of glass in her foot, a fishhook catching her lip, a strike anywhere match scraped across her teeth. We thumbed through memories until she couldn't stand it, left the house, climbed the fence with a broken shoulder, sat leaning against the gate, staring at the night. I want to go to the factories where film was once made by giant machines and careful hands, gears and enormous wheels and buildings 5 stories high. There, steel cauldrons with more square footage than a Manhattan studio are begging for potassium bromide, and the infrared goggles that once watched spools of cooling emulsion have been pried off, sold for parts. The electricity was cut years ago, but many of the machines, having grown accustomed to working in the dark, never noticed any difference. I want to see that mechanized planet, throw glass bottles against the walls, or just sit, witness the Ice Age slumber without so much as taking a picture. Thank you, everybody.